Greetings, Wambui Bahati. Wambui made it. This is part 2 of our Afghan Infinity Loom workshop tutorial. I do recommend that you watch at least the beginning of part 1 before you watch this video. In part 1, I talk about the pattern that we're using in a little more detail, and I make it a little clearer in that first video. In part 2, I review the pattern, but what I'm doing here in this video is with a very small sample. I am taking you from beginning to end. With a small sample, I'm showing you exactly everything from beginning to end, what goes on in between, and what happens when you get to the end of your Afghan, and how to bind your Afghan off the loom. Now, sometimes people have said that my videos are too long. Some people say it's too short. So I'm torn in between there, because there's some people who just want me to show it one time, they got it, and they want to move on. And then there are others who say, well, no, I need to knit along with you a little bit longer, or I need you to knit along with me a little longer. And so basically these videos seem really long because I'm doing a lot of repeating. So again, I ask that if you're somebody that gets it right away and you want to move on, then just speed ahead and go ahead and let me work with those of us, and I am one of them, who sometimes need things repeated over and over, or we just want someone to work along with us a little bit longer. So let's get to part 2 of our Afghan Infinity Loom video. So what I have here is a miniature, a little sample of the blanket that we're going to be making on our Afghan or Infinity Loom. This is the blanket with the pattern of the 4s, where we're going to be doing the first 4 rows of alternating between a knit, purl, knit, purl. And then when we get to the end, when we have our blanket as long as we want it, we're going to, at this end, do knit, purl, knit, purl. And in between all of this, we're going to do the first 4 stitches and the first 4 stitches, and the last 4 stitches of each row are going to alternate between knit, purl at the beginning, and knit, purl at the end of the row. And all of this in between is E-wrap stitch. So it should go faster, and it should be just a lot more fun, because we're just going to be doing mainly 1 stitch for the main body. But because we're doing that 4 at the beginning and the 4 at the end and the 4 on the sides, it just gives a better look. Now, this was a suggestion that was given to me, and I ran with it when I was talking to Miss Cindy at Sinwood Looms. Okay, so I got my new loom, and I'm very happy with it, and it's a little easier to work with because it is rounder and just a little bit more compact, but it is just as long. It's I measured it. It comes in, compared to the green Infinity Loom I had before, this comes in about 5 inches shorter, but it's still about 95 inches. So it's still a really good bed size blanket that you can do if you do the whole loom. Now, you don't have to do the whole loom. You can do half. You can decide you want to do a baby blanket, but please keep this in mind. However wide you decide to make your blanket, understand that when you take it off, it's going to shrink in 10 to 12 inches. So therefore, if you say, let's say you want to make a baby blanket, and you say, I want the blanket to be 60 inches wide, then what you want to do is actually take a measuring tape and measure around the perimeter. And let's say you want to do a baby blanket that's 60 inches. Then let's see, you're going to start here, and you're going to go here, and we'll see, where are we right now? We are, how many inches? Where I can't see. Okay, so right now I'm at 43. Let's see, so let's say, so you just measure roughly here to get an idea of, just measure around the perimeter. And right now, okay, So let's say we want to make a blanket that's 60 inches. Okay, 60 inches is right here. So what I'm saying though, if you want a blanket that's 60 inches, then go ahead and add another 10 or 12 inches. Add another 10 inches. So 60, you want to go to 70, if not 72. So your blanket would end right here for a 60-inch blanket because you want those extra inches in there to be prepared for the shrinkage that's probably going to happen once you start taking your blanket off the loom. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a blanket with you, but in order for the video not to be 7 hours long, my blanket is only going to go from right here, and my blanket is going to end right here. So what I have done is I have gone and marked the first 4 pegs of my row, and I've marked the last 4 pegs of my row. And what is important in marking this is to make sure that the outside is always, and you want to end with a knit, and you want to start with a knit. So what you want to have is knit purl in the beginning. And you also want to make sure that you know which color is knit and which color is purl. It's just going to make it so much easier and so much fun, and you're going to be less likely to ruin your project, because if you forget too many times whether you should have been knitting or purling, it might affect how your blanket might look. So please, please mark, and remember to start with the knit at the beginning of your project. You want knit, purl, and then however long you want your project to be, you want the knit to come from the outside on the last 4. Knit, purl, knit, purl. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get my yarn. I have this neon pink again, and this is very bulky. This is a number 6. I'm going to use this to demonstrate with so that you can see what I'm doing easier. I would suggest a little less bulky, because otherwise, when I was working with this, it just was a very tight and kind of almost a stiff blanket. So I would use a little thinner yarn. Maybe a 4 is good, a 4 or 5, but I don't suggest the 6. I was working with this and it got really, really heavy. Okay, so you're going to make your loop. On the Sinwood looms, they have this little tack here that you can just wrap the yarn around. So I'm going to do that. But if you are working on a loom that doesn't have that, you're going to make your loop, and you're going to put your loop on the first peg. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make just wrap here around, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap the first loop, and then I'm going to go and we're just going to E-wrap and E-wrap and E-wrap, E-wrap, and you're just going to do that the whole length of your loom, or however long you want your loom. You're going to E-wrap until you start coming to where your markings are, and you're going to go until you get to that marking there, and then you're going to stop. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go back and push everything down, because you want to make room for the next row, because in order to have one row of the E-wrap knit stitch, you need 2 rows, and how we make the stitch is by pulling the bottom row up over the top. So now we're going to go back the other way, and you just want to make sure that the attaching threads that are attaching the loops are on the inside of the loom. And so we're going to go back the other way, and so go back. Okay, and Now we're at the first stitch again, the first peg again, and we're going to take our pick and we're just going to pick that up and lift it over. And now we're just going to go lift all of these bottoms over the top, and then this will be our first row of knits. Okay. All right, now that's our first row of knit. Now the second row we want to do is a row of purl. So we're going to leave it up for now. So when we do our purl, we're going to go from the outside here, and we're going to lay the yarn across the peg, and we're going to go under the way that we do our purl. We're going to go under and bring that yarn back up, and then you're going to take that off that peg and put that loop back on. And then the same, you're going to lay the yarn across the next peg, and you're going to go in there and you're going to scooch that up and take everything off that peg and then put the new loop back on. And so that's what we're going to do. Now we're not doing anything with the markings yet. We're not going to be concerned about these markings that we have on here until we have done the first 4 rows, which is the row of knit, which we just did. And now we're doing a row of purl. And then we're going to do another row of knit, and then another row of purl, and then we're going to be dealing with those markings. But we had to get them on here before we started. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this off, and we're going to do this all the way. Keep getting. Okay. And put that back on. Oh, that was a big loop. And you don't want to pull your work too tight. You don't want it too loose, but you don't want to make it too tight either. It'll be hard to work with if it's too tight. And okay. And so what you're going to do is just purl all the way till you get to where your markings are, or however long you want it, however wide you want your blanket to be. And so here you go. And now we have 2 more. Okay, and now we're doing the last peg in this row. Okay, so we've already done one row of knit and one row of purl. So now we're going to get ready to do a row of knit. And so we're going to push all the loops down so that we can make row, have room for our new wrap row here. And we're going to wrap back the other way. And always remember to keep the yarn that's attaching, the attaching yarn side is inside. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and finish e-wrapping here. Okay, and now we're going to do what we do when we knit. We're going to take the bottom up over the top and bottom over the top, and we're just going to do that all around your whole row. You're going to do that. So if you can see right here. All right, we are moving right along because now we have just done our second row of knit. So now it is time to purl. Okay, so we're gonna go again, start over here, go on the outside. We're going to lay the yarn on top of the peg right here, and we're going to go and scooch that up. Off and put the loop back on. We have our first purl. And purl. Purl. Okay, and purl. Purl. Okay, so we have done knit, purl, knit, purl. So that was our last row of purls. So right now, what we're going to do is start our row. And so now we're going to be dealing with these markings that we have here. So remember that the outside is always a knit. So hopefully you've marked your pegs so that you know when you see whatever is on the outside here, you're going to knit. So you're going to knit, purl, and then you're just going to knit. So here's what it looks like when I do that. Okay, so I know that I'm going to knit here, so I wrap it. I do a knit. And so the orange lets me know I'm knitting. I'm going to do a knit. And then the next one, the blue, lets me know I'm going to purl. So I'm going to go around, and I'm always going to go on the inside to the left side of my peg when I purl. I don't know if that's standard or not, but I have always just gone around to my, I just go around to my left side. And then I'm going to purl here because it has a blue green tie on it. So I'm going to purl that one. And now I'm going to knit. And I'm going to just pull the bottom over the top. And now I have a blue green that lets me know it's time to knit. So I'm going to lay that across and make sure it's on the bottom. I'm going to go on the top and scooch that up. And then take everything off. Put the new loop on. Now the markings, I have done what it said to do. I did a knit, I did a purl, I did a knit, I did a purl. Now I have no markings, so that lets me know that all of this in between is knit. So I'm just going to go do a E-wrap around all of these pegs. I'm going to E-wrap and E-wrap and E-wrap and E-wrap. Okay, now I've come to a peg with a blue, and a blue means purl. So I'm going to go around the outside. Again, I don't know to the left. That's what I mean by the outside. And I'm going to go underneath and do our regular purl thing. Scooch it up. Get that loop. Take everything off and put that new loop back on. I'm going to go around here now to the left. And I'm going to wrap because I see an orange, and so what I want to do is knit. So I wrapped, I did an E-wrap, and we knitted. Now I need to do another purl. I'm going to go around here. I'm going to scooch this up so that it's on top. I'm going to put my peg, and then I'm going to pull it up. Put the new one on. Okay, now I purled, and now I'm at the end or the beginning, and I see an orange. It is the outside, and it means to knit. So I'm going to go through outside wrap, and I'm going to knit that one. All right. Now, in order to complete the row, I got to go back in between. Now, and once you finish the row, go back and then get the ones where you need to pull the bottoms over the top. Go back and get those because your row is not complete until you've gone back and pulled all of those up over in order to make your knit stitch complete. Okay, so now we've done that was our first row inside the blanket. Okay, so now we're going to do row 2. So row 2, now the working yarn is over here. Row 2, we see the orange, and it's the outside. So we're going to knit. So we're going to wrap around the outside here. Okay, and now we're going to go up and over, and we made a knit stitch. Okay, we see a blue here, and it's marked. So we're going to come from the left and go across that peg, scooch under and pull that up because we want to make that one a purl stitch. So we made that a purl. Okay, now we're going to make a knit because we're doing knit purl, and so pull that up. We made a knit. Now the next one we're going to purl, so we're going to go in, lay that across that peg and scooch it up, and now we have a purl. And now we're going to go ahead and push these down because we're just going to E-wrap all of these until we get to the end of our row. So we're going to E-wrap. So we're going to E-wrap, 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 E-wrap. Oh, I'm sorry. What am I doing? We're going to E-wrap until we get... Okay, we're going to E-wrap and then we're going to stop because we got to do a purl. So we're going to go ahead and do our purl. So once we see that marking, that's why markings are important. Okay, so to do a purl, we need to push that one up, pull this down because we need to scooch up under that and pull this loop up, take that off and put that loop back on. Okay, and that is why we mark our pegs because we sometimes just get lost in the moment. Okay, so now we're going to, I see an orange, so we're going to knit. So you're going to knit. And now we're going to do another purl here at the end. So we're going to purl. And now the last one is a knit. So we're going to wrap that E-wrap around there and we're going to knit. So we've done that row. Now, but we're not finished with the row because we got to go back and get these E-wraps up and over to complete that stitch. So here we go. And these are coming up and over and up and over and up and over and up and over. Okay, now we have completed the row. And so basically you can go ahead and push the center section down of your row because you know those are all just going to be E-wrap stitches, E-wraps. So now the working yarn is here. We're going to go back this way. So we're going to, we're over here. We see an orange and it is time to knit. So we're going to wrap and we're going to pull that up over and we have a knit. Going to do a purl. Like I said, I always, for some reason, go in from the left. So we're going to go underneath, scooch that up, pull that off, and now we have a purl. We're going to go around here and do an E-wrap because we're going to knit this one. So we're going to pull that up and over, and now we've got another purl coming in. So we're going to go ahead over here and scooch this in and up and pull that all off and put the new loop on and we have a purl. And now we're going to just E-wrap, 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 E-wrap. We're going to just E-wrap the whole length until you get back to where you have the last four or the first four where you have marked them. And now it's time to do a purl. So we're going to lay that across here. We're going to go around to the left, lay it across there because we got to pick that up and scooch that up to make a loop. Take everything off and put that new loop on that peg. We're going to go around here. We're going to wrap because we're doing an E-wrap knit stitch and pull that up. And then we're going to go around here, lay it across this peg so that we can, so that we can go under here and pull that up, take everything off and put that loop back on. And now we're going to go around the outside, wrap that and go up and over. And now we've done that row, but we're not complete because we got to go back in and finish off those E-wraps, knit stitches, and we're going to pull them up and over, and we're going to go all of our E-wrap stitches. We're going to go the whole length of our blanket until we have finished doing our E-wraps. And then again, we're going to go ahead, and we know we're going to have to make room for these new E-wraps that are coming in. So go ahead and push it down. And now our working yarn is over here. We're going to start over here. The outside is always a knit, so we're going to go ahead and do a wrap on that one. Okay. And now we're going to go get that and pull it up and over. And now we're going to do a purl. So we're going to put the yarn across the peg, and we're going to go and scooch that up, take everything off, put the new loop on. Okay, now we got to do a knit, so we're going to wrap that one and we're going to knit. And now we're back to a purl, so we're going to bring this inside. I'm at the place now where I'm ready to take my blanket off the loom. Now, I hope your blanket is much larger than this. This is just a sample so that I can demonstrate how to end your blanket and how to cast it off the loom. So let's say you're ready, however long your blanket is, you've got to that point and you're ready to take it off. One thing to keep in mind, and this will help you to remember what I'm about to tell you, is that when you get to the end, you need your working yarn at the end. So when you decide it's your last row, your working yarn should be over here on the end. Now, if your working yarn ends there when you decide, you know what, I'm ready to take this off, then you're in a good place, because what we're going to do is start, when we get our working yarn back over here, is we're going to start the knit purl, the same as we started with down here, to take our Afghan off the loom. So, however, if you decide, well, I'm going to end my Afghan right now, but you find that your working yarn is at the beginning, when you end, you want your working yarn at the end. So all you would do is work one more last row to get back over here. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to push these down a little bit so that I'll have room for my E-wrap stitches. And okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start over here. This is the last one. This is just what we've been doing through this whole video and what you have been doing with your Afghan. So we're going to do a knit, we're going to do a purl. This is going to be our last row before the 4 alternating rows. And so we're going to do our purl, and we're going to do a knit, and we're going to do a purl here, and we're going to get us a purl and take everything off and put the loop on there. And now we're going to wrap so that we can do our E-wrap stitches. So we're just going to wrap and wrap and wrap and wrap until we come to the peg that's marked, and we're going to do a purl here, and we're going to do a purl, and now we're going to do a knit, we're going to do a purl, and we're going to do a knit. And now we have we got to go back and get our E-wrap stitches. We're just going to pull these bottoms over the top to complete our knit stitches that are in the center. And now we have completed our row, our last row. We have a working yarn at the end of the project, And so we're ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a row of knit. And so we're going to just push down everything because we're going to do, and we're no longer interested in the markers now. We're not using them anymore because now we're going to do the whole row knit, very much like we did in the beginning when we started with a knit, a purl, a knit, a purl. Well, that's what we're going to do now. So now we're going to do a row of knit. So we're going to just wrap all of the pegs in this row because we're doing a whole row of E-wrap knit stitches. So we're wrapping. And now we're going to go ahead and pull the bottoms over the top. So this time, now we're doing a whole knit row. We're no longer concerned with the markers because the whole row is knit. And here you go. And knit. And now we have 2 more pegs and we will have completed our first row of knit at the end of our project. Okay, so now we're going to do a row of purls. So for the purls, we basically want to keep them up, and we're going to take this yarn and we're going to lay it across the peg here, and we're going to do what we know to do to make a purl. Okay, so we have a purl and that loop back on like that, and we're just going to do that all across. We're going to keep laying the yarn across and scooching it up and making a loop, taking off everything and putting the loop back on, and we're going to do that all across. And so we're just going to make a whole row of purls. And now it's time to make a row of knit. Let's see, we did knit, purl, so we need to do another row of knit. And so we're going to go back the other way. Let's push it down a little bit to make room. Go back the other way. Do a row of knit, knit, Okay, so now we're going to do our row of pearls. So I'm gonna just come back and lay that yarn across and do our purl thing all the way across. And this will be our last row for our Afghan. And so we're gonna purl, get back on there. And purl. Okay, so now we've done our knit, purl, and now we're ready to take our cast off our blanket from the Afghan. And so what we're going to do is we're going to loosen up this row a little bit. So it may take a little while to go in, because what we're going to do is we're going to pull the yarn here. We're going to pull it. And we're going to just, actually in the beginning, just take a lot of yarn. Don't let it jump off. And we're going to go almost the length. Now, if you have a really long, wide blanket, you're still just going to take this and kind of go as far as you can with this, because what we want to do is loosen up as much as possible these loops that are right here on top. And so what that means is we're going to pull, and we're just going to pull and loosen up this. Now it may seem a little time consuming, but it's going to be worth it, because it's going to really keep your Afghan from being wonky on one end, because we want the end to be as even as this beginning end is. So we're going to loosen up the yarn, the loops, and it may seem like it's time consuming, but it is totally going to be so worth it in the end, when your Afghan is not all tight when you're trying to take it off, and doesn't look all tight when you take it off. So the idea is that we want to get these loops as much as possible where they are just touching the peg, not so tight around the peg, just really touching or barely touching the peg. And you're just gonna pull, and you may go back the other way a little bit, but you just want to loosen up this. And actually it's going to help you with casting off, because you're practically going to be able to do it with your fingers if you get the loops just a little loose, so that it's all going to be good. It's going to come off easier, and it's going to look so much better if we can just loosen up some of these loops. Like I said, we just want the loops to barely be touching the pegs. We don't want them tightly hugging the pegs. We just want them barely touching. So I'm going to go this way, and then we'll go this way. We'll loosen that one up, and now we're going to go back the other way and draw in some of the loop. Okay, and so just touching or barely touching, but we want these really loose. Okay, so, and then, so we just want really loose here, so that it's barely touching the peg. We want a little space there. And so now we're going to go pull it in back the other way. And so you just want them very loosey. So if you have, depending on how wide your blanket is, this could take a little while, but it's worth spending the time to do this. And then just try to get them loosey, barely hugging, barely touching the peg. And you're going to see it's going to be such a breeze to cast it off once these loops are loose. We want loose loops. And okay. And now we're back at the beginning loop. And okay, so what we have are loose loops, very loose loops here, barely touching, and there's space in between there. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're ready to take our Afghan off the loom. The way we're going to do that is we're going to go into your second peg, and you're going to lift that loop. So you're going to skip the first, you're going to go into the second peg, and you're going to lift that loop up. And like I say, once you get it a little loose, you can take it up with your fingers, and you're going to put it on the first peg. All right, so that's what we did. We took the loop from here and we put it on top of this first peg. Now it has two. We're going to take the bottom and we're going to lift that bottom loop up over the top loop. Okay, and now we're going to take this loop and put it over here next, and like close it in like that. And now each time we move one, we're not going to move the first one, we're going to move the second one. So again, we're going to take this second loop right here, we're going to lift it up over and put it on what would be the first loop now. All right, so we just took that loop off and put it on top of that one. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the bottom and pull it up over the top. And then we're going to close it in. We're going to move this back over. Okay. And that's what we're going to do for the rest, how we're going to cast off our Afghan. And so now we're going to go to this one. That's the first one now, but we want to go to the second one. We're going to lift it up and we're going to put it on top of what is now the first one. We're going to take the bottom loop and pull it up and over, and now we're going to take this loop and close it in, put it right back next to the next loop. Again, we're going to go to the second loop that's in. This is now the first one, so this is the second one. We're going to lift it up. You're going to put it on top of that, what is now the first, what became the first, and now you're going to go to the bottom, lift it up and over, and then we're going to move in. We're going to move in next door. We're going to say, oh, I'm moving back over here. All right, so now this is the first, so this is the second peg. So we're going to, again, lift that one up and put it on top of that, what is now the first peg. we're going to take the bottom and lift it up and over. And now we're going to take this and close it back in. Okay, so now this is the first one. So we're not going to deal with the first one right now. We're going to always start with the second. So this is the second one. We're going to lift that up and over, and we're going to put it to the left. Always go to the peg on the left. And now we're going to take the bottom loop and lift it over the top loop. And then we're going to close in. We're going to move right back next to the peg on the right. All right, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go into the second, lift that one up. We're going to put that one over what became the first peg. We're going to go get that bottom loop, pull it up and over, and now there's one loop left, and we're going to take that one loop and we're going to say, you know what, I want to be closer to my friends. So they're not doing social distancing on this loom. And so we're going to do the same. We're going to go in here to the second one, lift it up, put it on top of that peg, and then we're going to go to the bottom loop and lift it up and over. And now we're going to take this one and we're going right back to where everybody else is. Okay, so now this has become our first peg, but we're not going to touch the first peg. We're going to go into the second. So we're going to go to the second, lift it up and over. We're going to put it on top of that peg, go to the bottom, lift it up and over. And now this one says, oh, I want to be near my friends. I'm going to go back. And so we're going to go back over where everybody else is. And here we are, up. We're going to put it on top of that one. We're going to go to the bottom, lift it up and over. We're going to take this one, put it back over here. Okay, and now this would be the next one that we're going to lift up. So we're going to lift that one up. And because you loosened up the loops, it's just so much easier to do. And you can, like I said, use your fingers to move them around now because they're loose. All right, so now, and so we would take that one and put it back over here. So we're going to lift that up and put it back over with its friends, and we're just going to continue to do this until we have done them all. And so we're going to take the bottom and up and over, and now we're going to take this one and put it back over there and go in to the second one, lift it up, and take the second one and put it on top of what is now the first. And then we're going to pull the bottom up over the top. And, all right. And then we're going to take this one and move it back in. And now we have this one here. We're going to lift that one up. And I just find it much easier to just do it with my fingers. And I'm going to put it on top of this one. And I'm going to go ahead and lift the bottom over the top. And now I'm going to move that one back over here. And now the one that is inside, I'm going to lift it up. And we're going to put it over here. We're going to take the bottom, lift it up and over. And now we only have the one. So we're going to pull that like that. And if you have a large blanket, It may take you a little while to get it through there, or you could go ahead and cut the yarn, and that way you could pull it up either way, because all we want is that little piece right there, because we're just going to pull that through. All right, so look at those edges. Look at that. Look at that design. Look at the edges. And these are all our knits, and it's just a really good look. So I hope that you enjoy making your Afghan. I'm going to set up one, and I'm going to be making an Afghan. I at least want to make a full-size Afghan, and I'm going to try to learn to love working on this loom. And that's it. That's how it should look, and that's how you cast off. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And happy looming, and congratulations on working on the Afghan or Infinity loom. And yeah.